بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, my students? I hope that you're happy and healthy and ready for today's lesson, which is an enrichment, which will be revising one of the previous lessons which we took, which will be about writing. But before we do that, let's discuss what we see here in this picture. So if you can tell me, what do you see here? Yes, this is a picture of a brain, and the other one is a picture of a storm. So now I think that you get it, that this is a brain and storm. And when you combine them, you get the term brainstorming. So what is brainstorming, if you remember? Yes, that's correct. That's correct. To brainstorm is a group discussion to produce ideas or solve problems. So from the term itself, brainstorming, so it's like a storm of ideas that are in your brain. And remember, in the brainstorming phase, there's no wrong or right ideas. Just tell whatever comes up in your head until we reach the solution for the problem. So the brainstorming, again, a group of people trying to come to a solution to the problem. And this slide here, what do you see? What do you see in these two pictures? Yes, excellent. The first one is face-to-face learning, is a picture of a classroom. And the second one is a picture of someone on his laptop, which refers to online learning, face-to-face learning and online learning. So which one do you prefer? What are the good things and the bad things about each one of them? What are the good things about the face-to-face learning? What are the bad things about the online learning? So this is the whole debate or discussion for today, the face-to-face learning versus the online learning. Look at the photos and try to come up with a definition and define face-to-face and online learning. Do you know anyone who is still studying online? Would you prefer to learn online? Why or why not? Do you still know anyone who's still studying online? Do you prefer online studying? Why or why not? Try to come up with reasons if you prefer face-to-face or online learning. The second question, do you prefer to communicate with your teacher and classmates face-to-face? Do you prefer going into class and communicating with your teachers and colleagues face-to-face? Why and why not? And what are the differences? Try to come up with the differences between online learning and face-to-face learning. So these questions all are for discussion between online and face-to-face learning. So we have a text which we'll be reading later. Read the text and answer the questions. What is the trend for university courses? What kinds of students opt for online courses? Opt means choose. Why do some students enroll in face-to-face courses? Which type of course is more successful? Again, what is the trend for university courses? What's happening here in the university courses? What's the trend that people go to now? What kinds of students opt for online courses? Why do some students enroll in face-to-face courses? Why do they choose face-to-face courses? Which type of course is more successful? So this is the text here, learning face-to-face and online. So let's hear it now.
There have been significant changes in education due to technology. The internet has played a determining role in transforming the face of education as we used to know it. More and more universities and colleges offer face-to-face and online course modes or blended versions that combine classroom face-to-face and email, social networking, or synchronous e-learning. Research has shown that students choose different options, depending on individual preferences, learning styles, and practical considerations. For example, working adult students prefer online courses as they offer the flexibility that they need to combine learning with work. In other words, individuals, whose time and/or mobility are restricted, are happier with online courses. On the other hand, a large number of students enroll in face-to-face courses as they feel that face-to-face instruction and communication with peers will help them understand concepts better and learn more effectively. They are not opposed to using email or social networks to communicate with peers but not with their instructor. On the contrary, online students find it easier to communicate with instructors by email as it frees them of inhibitions they might have about asking questions or raising issues face-to-face. Both groups defend their respective choice wholeheartedly. This is further demonstrated by success rates and learning outcomes. So, given the positive attitude to technology and the necessary skills, students will benefit from online courses as much as their counterparts in face-to-face contexts. What remains to be seen is if such courses will also benefit interpersonal skills and help people perform as members of a team.
So you see here in this article, how many paragraphs do we have? Yes, that's correct. We have four paragraphs. The first one is the introduction. When you see the first sentence here, there have been significant changes in education due to technology. So this is the key sentence for the whole article. The changes that happen to education because of the technology, and the internet. We have now online learning, and also we can use email to communicate with our teachers. So this is the introduction to introduce the topic for the reader, and the second paragraph is about the online learning. As you can see, the third paragraph is about face-to-face learning, and the last paragraph is a conclusion which tells which is better. You can read it by yourself. So let's answer the previous questions. What is the trend for university courses? What is the trend now for university courses? Yes, they offer face-to-face and online course modes or blended versions that combine classroom face-to-face and email, social networking, or synchronous learning. So the trend is they offer face-to-face online courses modes or blended version. Blended, it means mixed, face-to-face and using technology like email and social networking. The second question, what kinds of students opt for online courses? Who chooses online courses? Some specific students. Yes, working adult students, individuals whose time and mobility are restricted, are happier with online courses. So the working adults, individuals who their time and mobility, they can't choose when to go out and how to go out. So they prefer the online courses because maybe they are working outside the university part-time. So there they can study and work at the same time. Why do some students enroll in face-to-face courses? Why do some students choose to enroll in face-to-face courses? Let's see the answer here together. They feel that face-to-face instruction and communication with peers will help them understand concepts better and learn more effectively. So again, they feel that face-to-face instructions, the hand gestures from the teachers and their peers, their colleagues, will help them to understand the lesson more. Again, they feel that face-to-face instruction and communication with peers will help them understand concepts better and learn more effectively. So which type of course is more successful? Which type is more successful? Of course, they both are equally successful. So read the text again. We'll be reading the text again now. Read the text again and find out which paragraph. We said that we have 4 paragraphs, right? So present information about face-to-face courses. Which paragraph is about face-to-face courses? Sets the scene and introduces the topic. Present information about online courses. Rounds up issues. Again, read the text again and find out which paragraph. Present information about face-to-face courses. Sets the scene and introduces the topic. An introduction to the topic. Presents information about online courses. Rounds up issues. So let's listen again now, and then we will answer these questions.
There have been significant changes in education due to technology. The Internet has played a determining role in transforming the face of education as we used to know it. More and more universities and colleges offer face-to-face and online course modes or blended versions that combine classroom face-to-face and email, social networking, or synchronous e-learning. Research has shown that students choose different options, depending on individual preferences, learning styles, and practical considerations. For example, working adult students prefer online courses as they offer the flexibility that they need to combine learning with work. In other words, individuals, whose time and/or mobility are restricted, are happier with online courses. On the other hand, a large number of students enroll in face-to-face courses as they feel that face-to-face instruction and communication with peers will help them understand concepts better and learn more effectively. They are not opposed to using email or social networks to communicate with peers but not with their instructor. On the contrary, online students find it easier to communicate with instructors by email as it frees them of inhibitions they might have about asking questions or raising issues face-to-face. Both groups defend their respective choice wholeheartedly. This is further demonstrated by success rates and learning outcomes. So, given the positive attitude to technology and the necessary skills, students will benefit from online courses as much as their counterparts in face-to-face contexts. What remains to be seen is if such courses will also benefit interpersonal skills and help people perform as members of a team.
So now that we have read the article, remember how many paragraphs do we have? Yes, we have 4 paragraphs. So the question is, which paragraph is talking about face-to-face learning? Which paragraph introduces the topic? Which paragraph talks about online learning? And which paragraph rounds up the issue? So this is here the first paragraph. This is the second paragraph. This is the third paragraph. And this is the fourth paragraph. Again, we have 4 paragraph. So, which paragraph presents information about face-to-face learning? Yes, it's paragraph 3. It's paragraph 3. On the other hand, a large number of students enroll in face-to-face courses. Enroll in face-to-face courses. So, it's paragraph 3. Which paragraph sets the scene and introduces the topic? From this word, introduce. This is an introduction. Yes, that's correct. It's the first paragraph. There have been significant changes in education due to technology. So this is the key sentence here, the topic sentence, the changes in technology, in learning and education because of the technology. That's correct. It's the first paragraph. And which paragraph presents information about online courses? Yes, it's the second paragraph here. Research has shown that students choose different options depending on individual preferences, learning styles, and practical considerations. For example, working adults, students prefer online courses. So the second paragraph. And which paragraph rounds up issues? Of course, it's very obvious. It's the fourth paragraph, the conclusion here. And you can see, and if you read the conclusion, you can see that they're both equally successful. So study the charts below, exercise B here. Study the charts below. What is the topic for discussion shown in both? Write an essay comparing and contrasting the 2 ways of socializing and say which you prefer and why. Think about the features of socializing with friends in person or face-to-face and socializing on the internet. Which you prefer, socializing on the internet or face-to-face or in person. Make notes in the chart below. Are there things that you can do in both cases? Use your notes to write the essay. Exchange and read each other's draft essays. Suggest improvements. Revise, improve, and rewrite your essay. So write an essay, as said here, about how do you prefer to socialize? Is it online or face-to-face in person? So this is socializing on the internet, socializing in person, or do you do both? study the charts below. As we said here, write an essay comparing and contrasting. Think about features in socializing. Think about the features. What are the features in online socializing and in-person or face-to-face socializing? Use your notes, exchange and read each other's draft essays. The draft essays, you have to exchange them to come up with more ideas. Revise, improve, rewrite your essay. So socializing in person, this is the chart here. Socializing in person features. So socializing online features, same or different. So you have to fill this chart up. Then you can write your essay by organized ideas from the chart. Getting to the writing corner here, let's read it together. In an essay, you often have to discuss the similarities or differences between two different situations. Any two different situations, just like we have here, online and face-to-face learning, you have to discuss the similarities, the things that are like each other, and the differences between the two different situations. Opinions or ideas. Use phrases to say what is similar. When there are similarities, use phrases like this: likewise, in the same way, similarly, as well as, both, and etc. If there are some similarities here, use these: likewise, in the same way, similarly, as well as, and both. Or we use phrases to say what is different. When there are differences, you can use these phrases. In contrast, however, on the other hand, and so more. Provide examples to illustrate what you mean with phrases, like, for example, as in, such as, in other words. So when you have to illustrate, of course, when you say a point, you have to explain, to illustrate. You can use these here as an example, and you want to give an example, you can say as in, such as, in other words. Underline examples of phrases used in the text on page 14 for comparison and contrast, and explain why they are used. Paragraph 4, line 1, both groups defend is used to compare. Use phrases to state your preference and give reasons why. Again, use phrases to state your preference. When you want to state your preference, you say these phrases and give reasons why. You say personally. When you say personally, it means that you're giving your own preference, your own opinion. And you can say I prefer. When you say I prefer, this is in your own opinion. What do you choose? When you say I'd rather do this than that, this is again your preference. Because the reason for this is explaining why. You say I'd rather do this than that because of 1, 2, 3. So when you state your preference and you want to explain why, you can use these here, because, or you can say the reason for this is, then you give your explanation. Why do you choose this over that? For example, why do you choose online learning over the face-to-face learning? You say because, and you give your explanation. Or you can say the reason for this, why I chose online learning, is because of 1, 2, 3. And with that, we reach the end of this lesson. Thank you very much. See you next time, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.